Hey there, and welcome to Mama Drama and Trauma. I'm your host, Jenny Kimmel. Today's episode is a little different than what I originally planned, and I want to share that honestly. I never want to show up here trying to sound like I have life figured out when I actually don't. I'm still learning. I'm still unlearning. I'm still figuring things out in real time. I had an episode created and ready to be released on Tuesday, and when it came time to put it out, it just didn't sit well with me. It didn't feel like me. It felt more like I was trying to step into a role I don't want to be in, and that's giving advice or sounding like I have answers for other people's lives. So I scrapped it. I decided to redo this episode completely, even if it meant it took a little longer to get something out. This month has been about love, what it looks like, how it changes, and how we carry it forward after hard seasons. And what's been sitting with me lately isn't a list of things people should do. It's reflection. It's me thinking about my kids, about what they've witnessed, about what they're learning about love just by watching the adults in their lives. And it's me thinking about what I wish I had learned earlier when it comes to loving someone well and loving myself well at the same time. So today, I'm not here to tell you how to raise your kids or how to do relationships the right way. I'm just sharing what I hope my kids learn about healthy love and what I'm still learning myself along the way. What I want my kids to know about healthy love. When I think about what I want my kids to know about healthy love, the first thing that comes to mind is that love isn't always about agreeing with each other. You can love someone with your whole heart and still not see things the same way. And that doesn't mean the love goes away. Healthy love doesn't disappear just because two people have different opinions or different ways of looking at the world. For a long time in my own life, I think I believed that love meant agreement, or at least that disagreement meant something was wrong. Like if we didn't see eye to eye, then maybe the connection itself was fragile. And that's something I wish I had learned earlier, that love doesn't require constant sameness. It doesn't require two people to think the same way, feel the same way, or react the same way. It requires learning how to sit with differences without letting those differences turn into disrespect or distance. I want my kids to know that healthy love isn't about being right or wrong all the time. It's about understanding that people are different and learning how to be okay with that. Not in a way where you let someone take advantage of you, not in a way where you shrink yourself to keep the peace, but in a way where you can hold your own perspective while still allowing space for someone else to have theirs too. The biggest thing I hope they learn about healthy love is communication, not agreeing, communicating. Healthy love is being able to talk things through. Healthy love is being able to say how you feel without attacking the other person. Healthy love is being able to sit in an uncomfortable conversation without needing to win it. It's about expressing your side and also being willing to hear someone else's, even when that's hard. And I'll be honest, this is something I am still learning myself. I feel things deeply. I care deeply. And when I feel misunderstood or hurt, my emotions can rise fast. I can get heated. That's part of who I am. I'm learning that healthy love doesn't mean I have to shut those emotions down. It means I have to learn how to move through them without letting them control the conversation. I want my kids to know that it's okay to be mad. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel frustrated. But healthy love is also knowing when to pause, knowing when to take a breath before words come out that you can't take back. Because once something is said, even if you didn't mean it in the way it came out, it still lands and it still lingers. Healthy love is open communication, calm communication, honest communication. It's learning how to say, this is how I feel without trying to make the other person wrong for how they feel. It's learning how to stand in your truth without using it as a weapon. It's learning that someone doesn't have to agree with you for you to still be worthy of being heard. I want my kids to learn this earlier than I did. That love doesn't require agreement to exist. It requires respect. It requires listening. It requires a willingness to come back to the conversation when emotions have settled instead of trying to solve everything in the heat of the moment. I want them to know that healthy love isn't about perfection. It's about repair. It's about trying again. It's about being willing to reflect and say, I could have handled that better. It's about choosing connection over being right. And maybe most of all, I want them to know that healthy love includes themselves. That loving someone else well doesn't mean abandoning who they are, that their voice matters, that their feelings matter, and that they are allowed to be in relationships where communication feels safe, not scary. That to me is the foundation of healthy love. Not having it all figured out, not doing it perfectly, but being willing to keep learning, keep reflecting, and keep choosing to show up with honesty and respect, even when it's uncomfortable. Picking your battles in love. There are so many things I wish I had understood earlier when it comes to love and relationships. And one of the biggest ones is this idea of picking your battles. I think when we're younger or when we're trying really hard to make something work, we can feel like everything matters. Every disagreement feels big. Every difference feels personal. Every moment of frustration feels like something that has to be addressed right now. And sometimes that turns love into a constant state of tension. Looking back, I can see how often I fought battles that didn't actually need to be fought. Not because I was trying to be dramatic or difficult, but because I cared. I wanted to be understood. I wanted things to feel fair. I wanted to feel seen. And when you're wanting those things, it's easy to turn every little thing into a moment that feels heavy. But there's a difference between standing up for yourself and trying to win every point. There's a difference between addressing what truly matters and getting pulled into arguments that don't actually change anything in the long run. And this is something I didn't really start to understand until I became a mom, especially once my kids hit their teenage years. Somewhere along the way, I learned that not every hill is worth dying on. When my kids wanted their hair a certain way, I let them. When they wanted to try styles I didn't personally love, I let them. Blonde hair, mohawks, phases I knew would pass, because their hair will grow back. Their style will change, and those things weren't actually about values or safety or who they were becoming as people. They were about expression. They were about figuring out who they were. They were about being their own person. And once I realized that, I started asking myself a different question in relationships too. Is this a values issue or is this a preference issue? Is this something that actually impacts respect, safety, or trust? Or is this something I'm pushing because I want to feel right? I wish I had asked myself those questions earlier in love, because sometimes we fight over things that don't actually matter in the long run. We fight over tone. We fight over small habits. We fight over being right. And over time, that constant friction wears on connection. It doesn't mean you ignore things that hurt you. It doesn't mean you swallow your feelings. It doesn't mean you let someone cross lines that matter. It means you learn to pause and ask yourself, is this the battle I want to fight today? Is this about something that actually affects how safe, respected, and valued I feel? Or is this about my need to be understood in this exact moment? I didn't always know how to tell the difference. And sometimes what I thought was standing up for myself was actually me staying stuck in a cycle of trying to get someone to see things the way I did. That's exhausting. And I think that's something a lot of us learn the hard way. We think love is supposed to be constant communication, constant processing, constant fixing. But sometimes love is also about knowing when to let something go, not because it doesn't matter to you at all, but because it doesn't need to become a battle. I wish I had learned earlier that not every disagreement has to turn into a moment of emotional intensity. That not every difference has to be resolved right away. That some things soften with time. That some things become clearer when you step back instead of leaning in harder. And I want my kids to learn this earlier than I did. That it's okay to speak up when something truly matters. That it's okay to stand firm on your values, but that it's also okay to let small things go without making them mean something they don't. Because love isn't built on winning arguments. It's built on understanding what actually matters and choosing to protect the connection when the issue isn't worth the weight we're putting on it. I think picking your battles in love is one of those quiet forms of wisdom that usually only comes from experience. And if I can pass anything on to my kids or to anyone listening who's younger than me or just earlier in their own journey, it's this. Not every fight is worth having. Not every disagreement needs to be a moment of proving your point. And sometimes choosing peace in the small moments is what protects love in the big picture. That doesn't mean you abandon yourself. It means you learn where your energy actually belongs. And that's something I'm still learning too. Perfection, control, and love. One of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately is how dangerous perfectionism can be in love. And I don't mean perfectionism in the sense of everything needing to look perfect or be Instagram worthy. I mean the quieter kind, the kind where you want things to feel smooth, orderly, calm, like if everyone would just do what they're supposed to do, things would run better. I've lived with that mindset for a long time, not because I needed everything to be perfect, but because I wanted things to feel stable. I wanted things to feel under control. I wanted things to feel like they were running smoothly. And when things didn't feel that way, I felt unsettled. I felt anxious. I felt like something was wrong. And over time, I started to realize that expecting relationships to feel smooth all the time puts a lot of pressure on love. Love isn't smooth. Life isn't smooth. People aren't smooth. Relationships have friction. They have messiness. They have moments that feel clunky and uncomfortable. And when you expect love to be orderly and calm all the time, it can start to feel like failure when it isn't. I think sometimes we confuse peace with the absence of tension, but peace isn't about never having conflict. Peace is about knowing how to move through conflict without losing yourself or each other. For a long time, I think I wanted love to feel easy in the sense that things would just work if everyone tried hard enough. And when they didn't feel easy, I took that as a sign that something was broken, either the relationship or me or the other person. But relationships aren't broken just because they're hard sometimes. They're human. I've learned that wanting things to run smoothly can quietly turn into a form of control. Not control in a manipulative way, but control in the sense of wanting to manage outcomes, wanting to manage emotions, wanting to manage how messy things are allowed to be. And the truth is, love gets messy. People have bad days. People show up with moods, stress, baggage, and blind spots. People don't always communicate clearly. People disappoint each other sometimes. And none of that means love is failing. It means love is happening between two imperfect humans. I wish I had learned earlier that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real. That relationships don't have to feel smooth all the time to be healthy. That conflict and tension don't automatically mean something is wrong with the connection. Sometimes tension is just a sign that two people are trying to figure out how to exist together honestly. I also think perfectionism in love creates pressure to perform, to show up as your best self all the time, to hide the messy parts, to avoid conversations that might disrupt the flow. And that kind of pressure makes it hard to be fully yourself in a relationship. It can make you feel like you have to manage your emotions to keep things calm. Like you have to smooth things over to keep things comfortable. Like you have to carry the weight of making everything feel okay. And that's exhausting. Love shouldn't feel like a performance. It shouldn't feel like you're constantly trying to keep things from falling apart. It shouldn't feel like you have to be calm and put together all the time for the relationship to survive. Love gets to be real. It gets to be imperfect. It gets to be human. And maybe that's the lesson I wish I had absorbed earlier. That love doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. That relationships don't have to run smoothly all the time to be worth staying present in. That messiness doesn't equal failure. It just means you're dealing with real people and real emotions. And if I can pass anything on to my kids, it's this. Don't expect love to be perfect. Expect it to be real. Because real love has room for imperfection, awkward conversations, and moments that don't go according to plan. And that doesn't make it weaker. It makes it honest. What I wish I could tell my younger self about relationships. If I could sit across from my younger self and talk to her about love, I don't think I would start with rules or advice. I think I would start by acknowledging where her beliefs even came from. I grew up believing love meant staying. You find your person, you get married, you stick together through thick and thin. That was love to me. And honestly, I don't think that belief came from a bad place. I think it came from what I saw. My parents were married forever. My maternal grandparents were married forever. I loved family togetherness. I love the idea of people choosing each other over and over again, even when things were hard. There was something really comforting about that picture of love. It felt safe, it felt stable, it felt like home. So when I got older and entered relationships, I carried that belief with me. That love meant you don't give up. That love means you work through the hard parts. That love means you stay even when it's uncomfortable. And I don't think that belief is wrong, but I do think it's incomplete. If I could talk to my younger self now, I would tell her that staying only makes sense when both people are actually doing the work. That love doesn't just mean enduring the hard parts. It means addressing them. It means fixing what keeps breaking. It means not normalizing the same pain over and over again just because you believe love should be able to carry you through. One thing I tolerated for way too long in my marriage was the lack of real communication. Not that there was no communication. We did communicate. We knew communication was an issue. We talked about the fact that it was an issue, but we never truly fixed it. And that matters. There were times I suggested counseling, not because I wanted to blame anyone, but because after being together so long and still not understanding each other's communication styles, it felt like maybe we needed help learning how to meet in the middle. But instead of actually addressing it, we stayed in the same cycle. The same fights, the same misunderstandings, the same patterns repeating themselves for years. If I could talk to my younger self, I would tell her that knowing there's a problem and not fixing it is still choosing the problem. That love doesn't magically heal things just because time passes. That sometimes time just makes the cracks deeper if nothing changes. I would also tell her to trust her gut more. There were moments where I knew something wasn't right, not in a dramatic, explosive way, but in a quiet, lingering way. The kind of feeling you push down because you don't want to rock the boat. The kind of feeling you rationalize because you believe love is supposed to get you through. I would tell her that patterns matter, that if you're having the same argument in different forms for years, that's information, that if you feel unresolved even after apologies, that's information, that just because someone says, "I'm sorry," and wants to move on, doesn't mean the issue is actually resolved if you're still carrying it inside of you. I would tell her that different communication styles aren't a small thing. One person wanting to talk things through and the other wanting to apologize and move on might sound minor on the surface, but over time, that difference can create a lot of emotional distance. One person feels heard, the other feels unfinished. One person feels like things are resolved, the other feels like things are just buried. And buried things don't disappear. They sit, they stack, they eventually become weight. I would tell her that love doesn't get better just because you hope it will. Hope is beautiful, but hope without change can keep you stuck. I believed for a long time that love itself would carry us through, that if we loved each other enough, things would eventually work themselves out. But love doesn't fix communication. Love doesn't automatically teach people how to meet each other emotionally. Love creates the desire to try, but it doesn't replace the work. I would tell my younger self that staying isn't the same thing as growing, and that leaving doesn't mean you failed at love. Sometimes it means you finally listened to what love was trying to show you. And maybe most of all, I would tell her that it's okay that she had to live it to understand it, that she doesn't need to beat herself up for believing in togetherness, that believing in commitment is not a flaw, but I would tell her that commitment without repair slowly becomes sacrifice of self, and that love should never require you to lose yourself in order to keep it. What I hope my kids learn about love. When I think about what I hope my kids learn about love, I don't picture one big lesson. I picture a bunch of small understandings that hopefully settle into them over time. I hope they learn that love doesn't always mean agreement. You can care deeply about someone and still see things differently. You can love someone with your whole heart and still not be on the same page. And that doesn't mean the relationship is broken. It means two people are different. I hope they learn that disagreement doesn't have to mean disconnection, that you don't have to match someone's opinions to stay close to them. That love isn't about winning arguments. It's about learning how to meet in the middle without losing yourself. I hope they learn that healthy love is built on communication, not perfect communication, not always calm communication, but honest communication. The kind where you're allowed to say how you feel. The kind where you're allowed to be upset without being cruel. The kind where you can come back to a conversation after emotions settle and talk things through instead of pretending nothing happened. And I hope they learn that not everyone communicates the same way, that people come into relationships with different communication styles. Some people need to talk things through right away. Some people need time to process. Some people are quick to apologize and move on. Some people need to feel like the conversation is fully resolved before they can move forward. I hope they learn to pay attention to that, to learn their partner's communication style, to share their own communication style, to be honest about what they need in conversations so they're not constantly missing each other emotionally. Not so they can change who they are, but so they can work together toward conversations that actually feel mutual instead of frustrating or unfinished. I hope they learn that love isn't about being right or wrong. It's about understanding that people come with different perspectives, different needs, different ways of processing things. And that healthy love makes room for that difference instead of trying to erase it. I hope they learn that it's okay to take breaks when emotions run high, that stepping away from a heated moment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to not say things you can't take back. That pausing a conversation can sometimes be the most loving thing you do for a relationship. I hope they learn that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real, that relationships don't have to look smooth and easy all the time to be healthy, that there will be messiness, there will be misunderstandings, there will be moments where you don't get it right, and that none of that means love has failed. It just means people are human. I hope they learn to pick their battles, that not every disagreement needs to turn into a fight, that not every irritation needs to be escalated, that sometimes letting something go is not about being passive, but about choosing peace over control. I hope they learn that love is not about constant intensity, that loud emotions don't always equal deep connection, that steady, consistent presence can be just as meaningful as grand gestures, that safety and reliability matter more than drama. And maybe most of all, I hope they learn that love should feel safe to be themselves in, that they don't have to shrink to be loved, that they don't have to perform to be chosen, that they don't have to lose their voice to keep someone else comfortable. I hope they grow up knowing that they are allowed to expect respect. They are allowed to want honesty. they're allowed to walk away from what doesn't feel healthy for them. Not because love is disposable, but because their well-being matters. And I hope they learn that love is something you grow into. That the way you understand love at 16 doesn't have to be the way you understand it at 30. That it's okay to learn new things about yourself, about relationships, about what you need and what you don't. If they carry even some of this with them, imperfectly, clumsily, in their own way, then I think they'll be okay. Not because they'll get love right, but because they'll approach love with more awareness than I had when I was younger. And that's all I can really hope for. If there's anything I hope you take from this episode, it's not that there's one right way to love or one right way to do relationships. It's that we're all learning as we go. We're always learning and we're always growing. Some of us learn through things going right. Some of us learn through things going really wrong. Most of us learn through a mix of both. If anything I shared today resonated with you, I hope it made you feel a little less alone in your own questions about love, communication, and relationships. None of us come into this knowing exactly how to do it well. We figure it out in real time, sometimes clumsily, sometimes beautifully, and often somewhere in between. If you want to continue this conversation or spend some time reflecting on your own experiences, I'm slowly building out more written reflections and episode blogs over on my website at www.mommadramaandtrauma.com. That's where I'll be sharing more of these thoughts in written form as I go, and where everything connected to the podcast will live. You can also find me on social media if you want to stay connected there. I share little pieces of these reflections, behind the scenes thoughts, and moments from real life in between episodes. You'll find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Momma Drama and Trauma. And if this episode connected with you in any way, I'd be so grateful if you shared it with someone who might need to hear it right now. That's how these conversations reach the people they're meant for. As always, you are strong, you are worthy, and your story matters. Until next time, take care of you.